Hi, my name is Maya, and one of the books I read this semester is The Body Keeps the Score: Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma by Bessel Van Der Kolk. And I just picked up this book because a friend recommended it to me, and when I told her that I was an IB Psych and we do book talks each semester, she immediately ran upstairs and grabbed this book from her room for me. And after I read the back, I was vaguely interested, but I took the book and gave it a try anyways. I ended up really liking it, and the material may not be related to me since I haven't experienced childhood trauma firsthand, but it was interesting nevertheless. And by the time I got through the first chapter of the book, I was definitely hooked. Kolk does a fantastic job of merging his quantitative and qualitative research into one narrative that really encompasses the effect on trauma on the mind and the body and how that's affecting our nation as a whole. And he combines science and stories of individuals to show the issue of trauma for what it really is instead of just having only science or only narratives. Kolk's main claim in this book is that childhood trauma is one of America's most urgent and troubling health issues, and that the stress it brings upon children can predispose them to things like diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. And he also brings up the point that it isn't only extreme experiences that cause turmoil. Although those may bring it on the worst of it, emotional neglect, social isolation, or deprivation can also have lasting impacts on a person's mental health from when they're a child throughout adulthood. This book is full of really interesting research and experiments, and there's no way I could talk about all of it in one book talk, but there was one that really stuck out to me. It was near the beginning of the book, and Kolk talks about the technicalities of the brain when it goes into fight or flight mode. He uses the case study of a couple that was caught in a worst road disaster in Canadian history, where they were in a car and it was really dense fog and the cars just kept hitting the back of theirs one by one by one. And they saw things like a girl on fire, and they sat in their car as each new car ran into them in a huge pileup, and they were kind of just waiting there to see which one might kill them. But they ended up being okay, and they ended up coming to his research facility for treatment and therapy. And the study looked at how each individual dealt with the trauma of the event, and they used fMRIs to measure the neural activity by tracking changes in blood flow to the brain as they read aloud a script to imitate the scenario and allow them to visualize their own situation in their heads. And this was a bit unethical since it caused them to relive the scenario, but it was necessary to begin the treatment and therapy. When Stan heard the script, which was the man in the relationship, he reacted by reliving the event in his head. There was things like increased blood flow to his amygdala, which in the moment could not distinguish between the past and the present. So when he was in the fMRI machine, he felt like he was reliving the event right then. And he experienced a lot of stress, and the hormones released caused sweating, trembling, and even elevated blood pressure. Unlike Stan, Ute, the woman, responded to the stimulus by shutting down. She literally went numb and her mind went blank. Nearly every part of her brain had decreased activity, and this is something called depersonalization. By disassociating herself from the version of her that got into that accident, she is protecting herself from what her brain thinks is harm. And it is revealed that she reacts so differently from Stan, even though they were sitting in the same car, because of previous childhood trauma. She had learned to depersonalize as a survival strategy when dealing with harsh treatment from her mother when she was a child. And this really connects to the main idea of the book, how childhood traumas never leave you and they affect you even throughout your whole life. Because even in this situation, when her brain went into fight and flight mode, she was reliving her childhood and using coping strategies that she learned from that. Kolk writes this book as a cry to help to mental health professionals, physicians, and all people to begin treating trauma as seriously as it needs to be. He wants them to look for signs of traumatic experiences occurring in childhood and begin to use proper methods to treat them. This will in turn help better the world's health as a whole. By providing better care for trauma victims, we can help lessen their suffering and help humans understand each other and each other's problems better than we can now. People will be kinder to each other and more aware of how to deal with the effects of emotional trauma in friends, coworkers, significant others, and anyone they meet. He does a good job of this by giving the reader specific evidence with anecdotes of case studies and experiences and experiments that show how trauma has directly affected certain individuals, rather than just giving you a list of scientific data left and right. So it makes it more relatable to the reader, and they can really connect with each individual case study that he brings forward. And this book is still full of research and evidence, and I can't even begin to describe all of it in this book talk. But I highly recommend it for anyone who is interested in how the brain deals with different situations and is willing to read through a bit of biology-heavy details to get to the fun parts. Thank you. Bye.